Hello everyone, welcome back to chapter 2 of mastering the Semi-Slav course as black. So we're gonna start from where we left off. We're discussing the rare fifth moves. Today we're gonna discuss the fifth move G3. The main goal of this move is of course for white to go and fianchetto his bishop to G2 and create some side of sharp positions. Here I recommend the move knight Bd7 and the moves queen D3 and queen B3, both transposed to chapter number 1. And if c takes d5, e takes d5, bishop g2, let's say, then bishop d6, something like this we can play, and it basically kills the purpose of going and fianchettoing the bishop, because the pawns have been traded and our light squid bishop is no longer going to be passive, so it's going to be a pretty balanced game. The main reason why white usually plays these kind of setups with g3 is to play bishop g2, creating keeping the tension, and now I recommend taking the pawn on c4. Why I recommend this is that we can in some variations defend this pawn by playing moves like b5, and white has to be a bit careful in how he has to regain this pawn. If knight to d2, attacking the pawn on c4, and now if we play b5, our b5 pawns and c6 pawns both are hanging. So instead we go for knight to b6, defending the c4 pawn, and at the same time we are targeting the d4 pawn with our queen. So e3 is the most logical move, right? And now we just play a formidable pawn break, pawn to e5, and this is a key theme that is used in a lot of similar positions where the knight is positioned on d2, because the knight can no longer take on e5, the pawn has to. So d takes e5, more or less the only logical move. Just go knight to g4, knight f3, again the most logical. F4 doesn't work due to knight takes e3, of course. Knight f3, just trade off the queens. Queen takes d1 check, knight takes on d1, and knight to d7. Now you can see the e5 pawn is lost, and black is having a comfortable edge. Okay, so next up we're going to discuss the move a4. Now the point is, of course, you can see that white is trying to prevent the b5 pawn push so that he can take the pawn even later. It won't matter much, but here we play a5. We take advantage of the fact that white is giving us the square on b4. Castle, again the most logical move. You just go bishop to b4, taking advantage of the freshly vacated square. Queen to c2, and now we just go castle. If white plays e4, you just go e5, again a nice pawn break. D takes e5, knight to g4, and okay, if something like bishop f4, we can go queen e7, and the e5 pawn is lost. And there's no good way to defend this pawn. Okay, so now it's time to discuss rook to d1. This is a key idea, delaying e4 and first taking control of the d file in case it opens. Just go queen to e7. Remember not to go queen c7 because bishop f4 ideas can be somewhat unpleasant. Queen e7 directly supports e5 without any threats of bishop f4 ruining our plans. Okay, so knight to a2 is a very logical looking move, attacking the bishop on b4 and even the pawn on c4. Now at this time we can decide to give up pawn on c4 since white's knight is awkwardly placed on a2 and he has wasted a tempo. He's gonna waste another coming back to c3. Now again queen takes c4, e5, and black has completely equalized. White can try e4, but after e5 queen takes c4 transposes, we just go rook to e8 and we have a very solid position. It's extremely stable and of course all three results are possible. Okay, so let's discuss the move short castle here. Now we're just gonna play bishop to e7. We are simply completing our development, and again white has a couple of options here. He can go knight to d2 to recapture the pawn on c4 with his knight. You just go knight b6 again, and you see this one, no, e3, and again for the third time this move is working, e5. You can see that this move e5 is actually very common in many of these variations. Again the knight can't take on e5, the pawn has to. Just go knight g4 again. Again the f4 problem persists, so knight f3, queen takes d1, just trade off the queens, rook takes on d1 and go knight to d7. Just again the same story, the e5 pawn is lost, there's just no good way to defend it. Okay. Let's go a4. Let's discuss this. Just go castle, and again white has two moves. a5 might look dangerous for us at first, but trust me, it's not at all dangerous. You can just go knight to d5, e4 and knight to b4, and we have again preserved equality. Knight to d3 can be possible anytime, and if needed we can allow en passant and play b5, although in some cases it might not even be needed. Okay, time to discuss e4. You just go b5 here. A takes b5 is the only logical move. C takes b5, and if knight takes b5, we just go knight takes e4 or something, and e5 is met with knight d5, knight takes b5, queen to b6, and knight a3 is met with bishop a6. All the pieces are going to be active. It's black who has the initiative here. Black is pressing. He's going to bring his pieces to the queen side and launch a powerful blast open attack. Okay, now let's discuss an important variation, e4. This is like ignoring the pawn on c4, and white is saying that all he wants to do is gain some positional play and maybe even generate an attack, but he just goes short castle, bishop f4. White is playing positionally, developing his pieces, and we just go b5, we keep our calm, and we defend the pawn on c4, it's a must. d5, and now I suggest a very practical move which will for sure catch your opponents by surprise. e5. We don't trade, we just play e5 and sack a full pawn. Now there are a lot of moves white can play here, you might wonder. One of them is d takes on c6, but you just go e takes on f4. You take the powerful bishop on f4. C takes on d7, just go knight takes on d7, and g takes f4 is okay, but if your opponent is clever, he's gonna play knight takes b5, something like this, because the b5 pawn was actually defending the c4 pawn, and the c4 pawn is already very far advanced in the white territory. So white is trying to get rid of the main pillar of support, and will soon target the c4 pawn, but we just play f takes g3. White has to recapture, that's the only way. Rook to b8 and knight takes a7. We don't take on b2, we play bishop to b7, and now we preserve our bishop pair. The knight on a7 is very, very awkwardly placed. It can get trapped anytime, it seems. If we're targeting the e4 pawn with a bishop, we can play bishop f6 the next move and target the b2 pawn. Maybe even knight to c5 is possible, and the d3 square is also up for grabs. The d file is open. Overall, it's a dream position. Okay, so let's discuss bishop takes e5 now. You just go b4, kick away the knight, knight to e2, and now we play bishop to b7. At first it looks like we blended with d6, but yeah, we have knight takes e5 up our sleeves, and if d takes e7, then just white has just lost a pawn. Queen takes e7, and the knight on e5 is defended. Knight takes e5, queen takes d6, queen takes d6, bishop takes d6, knight takes on c4. It looks like white has gained an important pawn on c4, but after bishop c7, it's us who has the bishop pair, and we are gonna take control of the d file very soon, and the position is very, very, very balanced. We can consider playing bishop a6 and trading off one of the knights in some scenarios, not all, but yes, it can be a thought. Okay. Time to discuss one final move after e5. Knight takes e5. This is the most natural way to play, and of course it can be the most challenging if you don't know what to do. Knight takes e5. You have to take, and you have to trade the knight, otherwise like the knight is gonna cause some chaos. Bishop takes e5, knight g4, kicking back the bishop. Bishop to f4, g5, kicking back the bishop further. It may look like we are weakening our king side, but trust me, it's actually worth doing it. If bishop e3, it looks like a terrible positional move, and it actually is very comfortable for black. After b4, knight e2, knight takes e3, f takes e3, c takes bishop c5, knight d4, c takes d5, e takes d5, bishop d7. Actually, in fact, game continued like this, and black has a really comfortable position. The pawn on white's pawn on e3 is weak, even though we have extended our pawn forward to g5. There is no possible way for white to actually exploit it. The knight on d4 is somewhat tied to that square, as if it moves, then the e3 pawn is going to be very vulnerable. Now you might wonder, what if white plays d6, counter-attacking our bishop on e7? Well, I must say it's a good try, because after g takes f4, d takes e7, queen takes e7, g takes f4, it looks like kingside is badly missing the g pawn. But trust me, we have rook d8, queen e1, rook d3, and your rook is just causing havoc. Queen h4 is coming next if white is not careful. It's gonna be a really deadly checkmating attack, and even if white defends against it, it's black who has the initiative, as the c4 pawn is very far advanced into the white territory. We always have this b4 kind of ideas. You can move up bishop, bring the other rook into action. A lot of plans for black. Even if white stops one or two of them, black is still not out of plans. If bishop to d2, now we go with the move b4. And again, you can see that we are kicking the knight back. Knight to e2 is somewhat a most logical move. C takes d5, e takes d5, and bishop to c5. We have a very deadly attack against the f2 pawn. We can, if white is not careful, we can even pile pressure with queen f6 or queen b6 on the f2 pawn. And even if white kicks away our knight from with h3 or something, we can at least go back knight to e5, and our knight can reroute to squares like d3, supporting the c4 pawn from e5, and many other things. Now let's discuss what if white plays the move h3. Well, the point is that if we play something like b takes on c3, white is gonna play bishop takes on c3, and he has enormous amount of compensation, and we have to make some awkward moves, and white is just gonna start a brutal attack. So I recommend not going into this line. We should not be greedy here. Instead, after h3, play knight to e5. Now, white has to play knight e2. What else can he do? It's the only logical move remaining. C takes d5, e takes d5, and now we play bishop b7, setting up a nasty trap. And note that e takes d5 actually sets a trap from the white side of d6, with which white will win a piece for sure. But we play bishop b7. Apparently, white might think that we are falling into the trap, but it would be a huge blunder to play the move d6, as it's true that white will win a piece. We can play bishop g2, d takes e7, and now the winning move for black is to play the incredible queen to d5. And the threat is very simple. You're gonna play knight f3, followed by knight e1 or knight h4 double check, and queen g2 is checkmate. So e takes f8 queen check is pretty much the only logical move, the only reasonable move, let's say. And rook takes f8 now. We are full rook down, but how will white defend against the threat? That's the $1,000,000 question. If f3, you just play something like bishop takes f1, simply taking the rook. And if queen takes f1, we can just play knight f3, and we're gonna win the bishop the next move, and we already have a very dangerous attack. If king f1, we just play rook d8, and there's nothing white can do. The position is completely collapsing. It's just hopeless. A lot of ideas are coming in. We have this queen takes f3 check idea, knight takes f3 is coming in, and we can even directly consider taking the bishop on d2. So yeah, white is just out of tricks. If white plays f4, covering the square the other way, we just play bishop takes h3, threatening queen to g2 checkmate. And rook f2 is the only good way to defend. We play knight f3 check. Of course, rook takes f3 runs into queen takes f3, and queen g2 mate is unstoppable. If king h1, just play knight takes d2 check, and let's say the king moves somewhere. Sample line could go like bishop g4, and this position is just completely hopeless. A rook is gonna join the attack most likely, and the knight queen and bishop coordinating are more than enough. But yeah, there's actually nothing white can do here. It's just completely over. There are a lot of ways to win this. This can be one of them. If bishop to e3, now white has seen through our trap and now is reimposing his trap. The d6 move is now a threat because later queen d5 won't be possible in the same variation. So, and now we take care and defend bishop to f6. Just move our bishop from this d6 threat, and we are eyeing the b2 pawn, and d5 pawn is not too much of a threat to us. We can play knight d3 next, targeting the b2 pawn. Our pawns on c4 and b4 are monsters. We can play a5 further, supporting them. I mean, there are a lot of ways to continue this, and black is enjoying comfortable and also in the driver's seat, at least on the queen side. The king side counterplay is not going to be enough for white, as the queen side threats are too much to handle, and white already has to be extremely careful against all these ideas combined. So yeah, this was it for chapter number 2. See you soon. Till then, goodbye.